I have been working with audio a lot, and today I want to show you Sonic Pi, which is a programming environment that allows you to code music. So yeah, I've got it up on my screen. Let me just take you to their website really quick, though. So I've got I've got some docs up. I've been perusing as I've been exploring, but so the short and sweet here. Let me make this a little bigger for you too. Is yeah, try to get to the homepage. Yeah, so this is it. So you can install it like so. You might want to, you might not want to, but hopefully by the end of this, you will maybe have an opinion on whether you'd like to do this or not. So yeah, so you learn to code creatively by composing and performing music in an incredible range of styles, from classical to jazz to hip hop to EDM. We're gonna do like a lo-fi, like cyberpunk, maybe not lo-fi, but like a cyberpunk electronica type thing, because that's the type of music I've been listening to lately, and I just cannot get it out of my mind. So I've already got it installed. I've actually already got it up as well. This is the experience that you get out of the box. So you get an editor. You've got some logs from me noodling around over here. So don't worry too much about those. But there's run, stop, record, save, and load. So those do exactly what we'd expect, with record being the ability to push that out to a WAV file. So if you want to record something and share it, like as music and not as code, that is an option. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get into it. I'm actually going to have to put on some headphones for this so I can hear how this sounds. This is very different than most of the coding stuff that I've been doing. So yeah, we're going to just jump straight into it. Let me move this keyboard a little closer. Okay, cool. So yeah, there's a lot with Sonic Pi, but the short and sweet is that you're playing and sampling, and you might have like some scales that you want to work with, all sorts of musical theory. If you take any of that musical theory stuff and kind of codify it into code, that's kind of what you get with Sonic Pi. So this uses the Supercollider engine, which I haven't talked much about, but there is Supercollider engine. It's a synth engine. You can also, there's a Supercollider toolkit enclosure, which is I've used in the past, which is pretty cool. Yeah, you can read more into this if you'd like, but it's a synth engine. It's really, really powerful, and we can do some really cool stuff with it. With that engine, we have special effects that we can do. So, for example, if I want to use some special effects, I can say with FX, and then the effect name. So I'm going to set up something that wobbles, so we kind of get a wobbly sound. There are parameters that you can set. So for this one, I'm going to set like some phase. We'll set the phase to 2, and then we'll use do to start a new block. This is going to be Ruby-esque syntax. It probably is Ruby. I'm not sure if it's valid Ruby, but it's very, very close. Yeah, so we're going to do that. One of the things that's interesting is it runs like a script. So if you like kick off a sample, and I should mention that you're sending instructions to the Supercollider engine. So if we had like a bunch of stuff at the top, actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do that. So for example, we can grab like sample, and there's some samples that are shipped with Sonic Pi, like an ambient choir. So I can grab that. I can give it like a rate of like 1.0 and an amp of 1.0. This would be how loud we want it to be in this case. And if I run this, you should hear something that looks like this. Bada bing. So we take that and we start to throw a bunch of stuff together, and we get some really interesting things. But before we do, I just want to mention that, like I said, you're sending instructions to the Supercollider engine. So if we do this, all these instructions get sent at once, and that's it. It sounds basically the same, except we have 6 samples playing at the same time. So there's, natural gain from playing 6 of the exact same series of notes. So you might want to do something like sleep, right? So you can sleep in between these. So we could do like sleep 0.5. And then I'm going to remove some of these extra samples just so you can get an idea of how that would fit together. The choir is maybe a bad example, but let's crank the rate up on the second one, so the pitch is going to be higher as well. You can kind of hear that. So if we were to take the sleep out again, it all happens immediately, which actually sounds kind of cool. We get that higher pitched choir and then the normal choir as well. And you can get into some pretty interesting stuff too. Like if we slow the rate down here, you can get something like that, which is pretty neat. The key thing is, wow, this is super fun to just tinker with numbers and hear the different sounds that come out of it. So whether you have like a music theory background and you know what you're doing, or you just look at this mathematically, or you look at this from I can code, so I'm just going to mess around with some stuff, you can have a pretty enjoyable experience. So let's get back to what we were working with. So I've got the wobble that I'm working on here. And if we want to run multiple sounds at once, and we kind of want to like loop them and keep some instructions going. So from a programming perspective, we want to do like an infinite loop, right? We want to keep things going until we stop the program. If we do that, we won't be able to play other samples because we'll be stuck in that loop. So what you can do is you can use the in thread keyword here, and we can say in thread, do these things. I'm going to set up another effect. I'm going to do an echo maybe. So we have an echo here. We can use the mix to determine how much of an echo we're getting. And then I want to do like an infinite loop. So I'm going to say loop do, I want to sample, we're going to sample drum, heavy kick. The rate will be 1.0. The amp will be 1.0. Let me just go ahead and close this out with a bunch of ends. And let's give this a play. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's not bad. Maybe we sleep a little bit, like so. Okay, cool. One thing that's interesting too, down here in the bottom right corner, this is maybe a little hard to see. I don't think I can, yeah, I can't make I can make the text bigger, but I can't make the editor itself bigger. But there's a tempo down here in the bottom right corner that you can mess with. So if we wanted to crank this up to like 114, or bring it all the way down to like 60, as soon as I remember how to bring this down. That's 96, 60, and it didn't save. That's 80. So something real slow like 60. I don't want to do 60. I kind of liked playing around at like, yeah, 84 sounds good. Kind of gives me that like pulsing cyberpunk type vibe, so we'll go with that. For example, we can change this echo mix. So if we wanted to set this to like 1.0, we should hear more echoes. Actually, I kind of like that quite a bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. We can add maybe another sample here as well, like bass hit. We'll take a bass hit at C. We'll set the rate to 1.0. The amp will be 0.4. Just some random numbers. We'll tinker with this as we go. One thing that's interesting, these are samples, right? So if we change the rate, we're effectively changing the pitch. So, and the speed at which the sample finishes, and, you know, everything that comes with changing the rate of a sample. And again, if you don't have much of a musical background, don't worry too much. I've played a lot of instruments, but in terms of theory or music production, I don't have much of a background there. So you can definitely just explore this and figure it out on your own. Yeah, you can hear that hit too, right? Which is pretty good. We could lower this, maybe take this down to like an 0.8. Whoops. Yeah, it's a little deeper now. And maybe we want to take the amp and just to make sure we're really hearing it, bring it up to a 1. That's pretty good. I think that maybe is a little louder than I want, so maybe like 0.8. But yeah, I like that. Okay, so we have like our first block of music, and one of the neat things about this is you're essentially composing like blocks as you go. If we wanted to, we could hop over to another pad here and start writing things in another pad, but I'm going to keep everything in the first pad, at least for now. So let's come up with like I want like essentially like a pad. And I think what I'm going to do for a pad is I'm going to use another tool called ElevenLabs to generate a pad. So I'm going to come over here. I've already been playing around with these some. I really like... That one's not bad. Let me shut this off. Yeah, I like this one a lot. So I'm going to download this pad. I'm going to move it to my desktop and rename it right quick. Ooh, sorry, that was loud. And I'm going to rename it right quick to, Cyberpad, something that's a little easier to import. Okay, sorry, I need to stop clicking on the desktop. Okay, so now that we're there, let's throw another with FX. We're going to use the Crush plugin, so we're going to just crush this up even more. Mix, like 0.6 maybe, amp, 0.2. Again, we'll probably change these numbers. I guarantee they're not going to be right on the first try. I don't have the mental faculties to envision what that will sound like without actually, running it through a speaker. So some people might, but I do not. Okay, so again, using nthread to run this in a thread, using loop because we want to keep looping this. We're going to sample just like before, but one of the cool things about this is you can bring custom samples. So I want to sample desktop, and we called it cyberpad.wave. So I do this. We're going to give it like an amp. We're going to give it, we'll just do an amp for now. Sleep for, it was 4 seconds. So we'll try that and see what it sounds like. That's I actually like that quite a bit. Let's amp up the effect a little bit more. Yeah, I'm gonna play around with the mix value here for Crush just to see what it sounds like. That's not bad. I'm curious, what other effects do we have to work with? So if I do with effects, we have an auto tuner, band equalizer, a bit crusher, distortion, echo, flanger, crush level, mono, normalizers, octaver, that could be fun, pitch shift. That's interesting. Very curious about the pitch shift. So, okay, we have our amp value, we have our mix. I want to mix 1.0. Let's just do a full mix of this, play with the pitch shift. Pitch, let's do like 0.4. See if we can get something really like kind of dark. Not sure. I have an extra end. Oh, I'm missing the do up here. It is code, so if you write invalid code, you're gonna have a bad time. Yeah, okay. That's not the pitch I want, but it's close. It's dark. One thing worth mentioning too is if you'd like, you can do math here. So if we wanted to do 10 divided by 3, which I don't think I want to do that. Curious, can we do negatives in this case? We can. So one thing I might do instead of -5, let's take this back to like 0.5. And what I want to do is change the rate of the sample to 0.5 as well. That's still not what I'm looking for, but let's do like -4. Actually, that sounds great. Yeah, okay, cool. We'll work with that. So yeah, that worked pretty well. I do want to add like, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to add like, essentially like a scale that we're just going to do some picking and choosing, some randomized like octave. Oh my gosh, I cannot think of the name of that tool at all. Yeah, the name is eluding me, but we're gonna go ahead and throw some reverb on this, and we'll mix it to something small for now. We're going to run this in a thread, and then we're going to play a scale, and the scale we want is going to be E flat and in the third register. I want to play, no, I don't want to play major. I want to play minor pentatonic, and we can give it a number of octaves to work with. Octaves, let's just do 2. And then we can call .choose to essentially get like some randomness out of this. This isn't going to do us much good unless we throw it in a loop, though. So we'll throw it up here in a loop, go to loop.do, hop back over here. We have our choose. I'm going to go ahead and end the loop before I forget. And we're not done yet. We have some more things we can use. So we can set up like a release, and we can set up an amp to determine that volume. So we get something like this. Thread death. Loop did not sleep or sync. Yeah, it did not. Let's fix that. So sleep, like 0.25 maybe. That probably should be about right. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's actually a little quiet. So let me see. Maybe crank this up a little bit. Yeah, I like that. And one of the things that's interesting too is like every time we play this, it's going to be different. The sample's going to be the same. The wobble up here with the drum kick and the bass hit, it's going to be pretty consistent unless we change these values. But by using choose, we're essentially doing some randomizing. So the value that we're getting every time this loop hits is potentially, it's different, which makes this really interesting for like a live coding music perspective. But if you are really trying to get like exactly what you want, you probably would have to go through and actually write out exactly the progression you want and not necessarily take such a random approach. So just something to think about. Let's hop back over to ElevenLabs, and we're going to make one more sample right quick. I don't know exactly what I want. Close out all these windows. So the nice thing about this is you can always find samples online, of course. There's a really great tool called Splice, but it's kind of expensive. So ElevenLabs has this cool thing where you can essentially just describe the sound effect that you want. So I'm going to come in here, and I really want like a cymbal crash hit. We can change this to be loopable or not. I don't really need this to be loopable. You can set the duration if you care. Auto is fine for me. And then right here, you got like a prompt influence. So if you really want to follow your prompt closely, you might crank that up. Otherwise, low allows more inventive and diverse responses. I basically know what I want, so we're going to crank this up to like 80% and try that. And then we'll give it a second and let it think. And hopefully we'll have a couple good samples to look at. Okay, we have some. And the good news is the alignment of the, that is definitely not the right word, but I'm going to call it the alignment. The alignment of the wave file looks to be correct. So I want everything to be at the start since I'm working with samples, and anything trailing off is essentially white noise or empty noise. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a little deeper. I kind of like this one. So I'm going to download this one as a WAV file. I'm going to bring this over to my desktop. And here, I'll bring this up center fold so you can see it. I'm just going to rename this to, please, rename this to symbol. Hop back into Sonic Pi. And I am going to hop over to another Scratchpad for this one. I just want to, oh, I've got some other stuff up here. I just want to hear this sample. So I want to sample desktop / symbol.wave. Cool, sounds good. Let's play around with the rate, see what we get. That sounds pretty good, actually. Feels nice and dark as well, which is pretty neat. One of the things that I do think is really neat is we can do, we could slice this up. So if I wanted to say num slices and I want 12 slices, and then I also want to pick slice 4, you should hear something fairly different. Yeah, you can just hear the end because we've essentially taken that audio file, sliced it up into 12 separate slices, and then we're saying just play slice 4. So if we were kind of curious, can you do multiple slices there? Could I do like... Okay, that wasn't 4 to 6. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure how you would do that. That might be something I need to look into. But that wasn't really the slice I wanted. Okay, I think I like slice 2. And then I'm going to crank the rate. Actually, I'm not going to crank the rate up. We're going to grab with effects. We'll do a pitch shift. The pitch is going to be really high. Mix 1.0, do this, end. Syntax errors found. Okay, that, yeah, a little too high there. I really want like a kind of like a fuzz. I'm essentially trying to take this cymbal, slice it up, and then get like a fuzz sound with it. That's not bad. Okay. Yeah. Let's throw maybe another effect on there. So I'm going to grab with effects, and I'm going to throw on a bit crusher. Ooh, that's interesting. I don't know what the bits parameter looks like. I'm curious if we just throw it on without customizing it. Does it affect anything? It does a little bit. So we could tinker around with those a little bit more. I kind of like that. So I think what I'm going to do is take this, hop back over to my main pad, and then we're going to throw it down here. And I'm going to throw this in a thread. And then we need to end that thread. And we also want to loop this, right? We want to keep this going. So I want to do loop.do. And I want to run that sample. And then I want to sleep for like 0.5 maybe. We have a syntax error on line 42. Looks like we're missing an end, maybe? Okay, that's not entirely what I want, but it's not too far away. So I think I might continue with that for now. And I think that gives us essentially a base to work with. So one of the things I'm kind of curious about would be if we took one of these and got like a, like I want essentially like a, give me, I'm trying to think Cyberpunk, city. I want maybe just some cityscape background noise for a Cyberpunk song. See what we can get. I do want this to be loopable because I want it to be something that will continue, and I can just loop through that and see what the sample gives me. If I don't like it, we might chop it up and play around with it a little bit more, but it'll definitely get us something close, which, you know, that's part of sampling, is chopping it up and doing things with it. Let this think for a minute. Wow, that is really deep. Also really deep. Really not what I'm looking for. Also really deep too. Let's try maybe a different prompt. Cyberpunk city background noise. See what we get there. And I'm also going to take it down just a little bit on the prompt influence to see if we can get something a little more like what I'm looking for. Let it take it and run with it and see what it can come up with. Okay, we've got new clips. very industrial, which isn't really what I'm looking for. No. Also very industrial. It's like a kind of industrial metal. That's not bad. Does it make sense? I don't think it does. That sample's not bad. That one turned out pretty good, but it's still not what I'm looking for. So maybe if we take like a distant police siren, maybe we start there. While this is cooking, I will put links in the video description to both ElevenLabs if that's something you're interested in, and a link to sign up there, and then also a link to Sonic Pi's website as well. So you can try this stuff out, make sure you're downloading the correct tools and using the same stuff that I am. That's not bad. You got it. Okay, we're going to throw this siren in, try to build that cityscape. So I'm going to pull that to my desktop as well, just because desktop is nice and easy for this. Siren.wave is what we're going to call it. Okay, that's saved to siren.wave. I also want like, what else do I want? I want like some more ambient stuff. Like I really just want to build a soundscape, essentially. So rainy city soundscape. Let's see what that gives me. And maybe we'll take that and work with that instead. And that siren may end up getting layered in, or it may not. This might be the one. It kind of fades out and then swells back in. This one has a swell at the beginning that I really don't like. Like you can hear it come up and then back down and then back up. Yeah. This sounds crushed like crazy. Yeah, let's go with this one. So I'm going to grab this wave as well. We'll throw the rainy sound in. Sorry, this sounds weird, but I'm having a heck of a time renaming these samples on my desktop for some reason. Okay, so we have that. Let's throw sample. I want desktop / rainy dot wave. I don't know if we actually need any effects for this, so we're just going to go ahead and throw it in a thread. We'll loop playing it. Here's our sample. We need to sleep, or else our thread will throw a fit. So it's 4 seconds, so we can just sleep for 4 seconds. And then end, and let's give it a play. Gotta tell you, I don't hear it at all. So let's see if we can maybe mess with this a little bit. Set the amp to 1.0 for this. Still don't hear it at all. Let me just make sure I'm not seeing any. Oh, rainy.wave, no match found, skipping. Oh, that's because I have WAVE instead of WAV. Okay, that's a little loud, so let's do 0.6 maybe. Give this another shot. Okay, and this is actually a really good opportunity to talk about attack. So I'm, again, not going to get into music theory or anything, but essentially what we can do with attack is change the envelope at the beginning of the sample to kind of, if you hear it, there's a bit of a swell. In fact, you know what might be better? Let me just grab this and throw it in another pad. And then Let me take this attack off, and you should be able to hear it. You hear it kind of swell at the start of the loop. So what we can do is we can change the attack here and do like an attack of like 0.75 the first 3/4 of a second. Still a bit of a swell there, but it's not too bad. So what if we change this to 1.25 and see what that sounds like? That sounds excellent. So I'm going to take this back over to our main, throw this back over here, and let's give the whole thing a play. Okay, yeah, kind of like this. I think maybe one thing we could do that might be interesting too is if we take this and do, for the bass hit, do something like bass and have it equal to 0.8, 0.9, 1, 1.1, and 1.2, and then say choose and just pick one. And then we change our rate here to be bass. It's a little hard to hear with everything else going on, but the bass note is now changing because we're upping the rate of that sample. So we're getting essentially, it is also playing slightly faster or playing slightly slower. So that might not be the way that you want to. That might not be the way that you want to approach things. You might want to, you know, pitch shift it or something too. But again, I'm not a music theory expert. I'm not the right person to teach about that. So yeah, that gives us a little bit of variety in our bass. So we have some samples, actually quite a few samples, external and internal at this point to Sonic Pi. So that gives us our wave. So if we really wanted to, I think one thing we could consider doing is throw one more in thread, grab that siren, set the amp to 0.1. I want it to be super quiet. One thing that's interesting, again, with the attack and it being so quiet, I think we should be able to get a pretty distant sounding siren. So if we do this, set it to a 12-second sleep. Yeah, that actually sounds pretty good. I'm going to throw this in a pad just so you can hear it more clearly. So if we run this now, and it's going to fade out, and then in a couple seconds, it'll pick back up and come back in on the next one. So we're essentially getting that cityscape. So I'm going to just give it one more play really quick. I'll probably call it here. I could tinker around with this for hours. And as much fun as that would be for you to watch that, I think hopefully you've got the gist of like programming music with Sonic Pi or programming soundscapes with Sonic Pi in our case. And I think that's just fascinating. So let's listen to what we've built over the course of the past 30 minutes. Yeah, I like it. I think, honestly, the thing that I like the least is this part right here, and I think I would just tinker around with maybe sampling or how that sample is sliced up and maybe do some different things with it. It's kind of has like a washing sound, like I can make sound effects in the microphone, but I'm not sure if it'll convey the point, but kind of like wash, 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 wash. And I don't like the intensity of the end of the shh sound that we're getting. So that's something that I might continue to play with, but again, I could spend all day doing this and I don't need to record the whole thing. Hopefully you found this video helpful, or new or exciting, really whatever you found it to be. Hopefully it was enjoyable at least. And if not, and you watched all the way through and you're ready for me to get back to regular scheduled programming, all puns intended, thank you for sticking with me for this slight little detour where I show you something that I have really been enjoying lately. So Yeah, I think that's it. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. We're all friends here. There's also a link in the description to join the Discord server if you would like to hang out with more like-minded individuals and talk about programming, because we have talked about a fair bit there, from Zig to Go and F# and a couple of other things. So consider joining the server if you'd like. Besides that, give the video a thumbs up. You liked it, I think, I hope, maybe. And if you didn't like it, can you still do thumbs down? Is that something you can do? If you can, feel free. It won't hurt my feelings. Yeah, I think that's it. So thank you very much and have a great day.